Our next guest says that her fondest memory is being taught to read by her deaf father. Now, she also says that nobody teaches us how to manage our minds and emotions, and it's so important to teach moms to be in tune with themselves emotionally. Stay tuned for this incredible conversation with my friend Amanda. Welcome to Casa de Confidence, a podcast for you. You'll hear some incredible women
and some awesome, cool dudes
going confidently in the direction of their dreams and living in the purpose of their heart.
You're our host,
Julie DeLucca-Collins, and you are our sidekick. Hashtag handsome hot husband.
That again.
And the producer of the show.
That I am.
I am an author, speaker, coach, dreamer, and most of all,
we help people go in the direction of their dreams
and support them on their purpose. So pull up a chair,
grab a drink,
and make yourself at home because our casa
is your casa. Welcome back to another episode of Casa de Confidence. This is Dan Collins, and I've got Julie DeLucca-Collins over here.
Seriously, you have to be this chipper in the morning?
Chipper? I was trying to do an announcer voice. Did it work?
Yeah, I guess so.
It was kind of weird.
Well, are you looking for a new career in announcing?
No, I don't have the voice for it.
I think you have the voice. You have a little sexy voice.
Yeah, my voice is a little high.
At times.
Yeah, at times.
Mm-hmm. So, listen, stop being chipper in the morning.
What?
Stop being chipper in the morning.
Chipperoo.
Chipperoo. Listen, I had already a full day that I've lived this morning. Even before I finished my entire cup of coffee.
You went live?
I forgot I had made plans with my friend to go live in her Facebook group and YouTube and LinkedIn. Mm-hmm. She lives in Israel, and she asked if I could be part of her show because it's 5 p.m. in Israel.
Yeah.
And, well I said yes, which is 10 a.m. here. Thank God. I looked and I saw, holy Camasso, I better go get dressed.
I've never seen you get ready so quickly.
I know, 5-minute makeup.
That was amazing. I'm going to remember this the next time we have to be someplace.
Please. Listen, speaking of being someplace, we were very social last night.
Yes,
I had so much fun.
I had a great time too.
Why do you think I had the most fun?
Why? Because you were out and you haven't been out in a while.
That's true. But I also, friend of the show.
Oh, I know why. Because you won. You won the game twice.
Okay, my friend Amanda Blakesley, friend of the show, also one of my clients. She was celebrating her business again. She has Be the Solution Fitness, and she hosts a Christmas party for her clients and for us because she invites us. And, well, it wasn't Christmas, but she had postponed the party till now, and it was fantastic. We had a wonderful time. We had her signature drink, and then she also had hired DJs to come in, but not for dancing, but for playing musical bingo.
Yep, musical bingo.
That's right.
Fun. I almost won a couple times, but
I won first.
I did not. You did. You won twice.
I won twice. Oh my gosh, I've never screamed bingo so fast and so loud in my life.
You're very excitable when you win things.
I know. I'm a DeLucca. What can I tell you? The DeLucca blood is strong when it comes to winning. Always in it to win it, for sure.
That's cool.
So anyway.
So it's a beautiful day out in Connecticut today. It's warming up. The sun's out. The snow is melting.
Yes, thank God.
The snow melting is revealing a lot of sticks on the ground, though.
Really? Where did we get the sticks from?
The trees?
Oh, these trees.
The trees were shedding before it snowed.
Oh, my gosh. Really? Well, there's still some yucky snow in the ground.
Maybe we'll go pick up some sticks later.
Okay, if you say so, we can. I was thinking it's the perfect weather to go outside and sit at a brewery.
Ugh.
Really?
I think I realized that I might be too old to drink. Because last night I had a couple beers.
It's not like you had a lot to drink.
I didn't, but I got a headache.
You know why? I'm going to tell you why you got a headache. Because you mixed your drinks.
Yeah,
Maybe
that's
you
true.
are too old to be mixing drinks.
Yeah, that's
You
probably
can't
it.
go from beer to bourbon.
I got to go from bourbon to beer, right?
Just pick one. Go from
just
bourbon
pick one
or
and go with
beer.
it?
Don't go
Okay.
both.
You're right. You're right. You're right.
You know, that's what happens.
Okay.
Speaking of what happened, yesterday you made a suggestion to me.
I did.
Yes. Dan, I went to get my nails done, and Dan said, you should get something other than red. And I'm like, no, red is my signature color. I always get red. And he's like, no, get like a pink or something. And you should get one nail that's blue, like the color of my eyes. And I looked at him and I said, you got to be kidding me. That's ridiculous. Who gets blue nail polish? I am not a blue nail polish kind of girl. So I got to the nail place and they said, well, what color would you like? And I said, well, same color as always, my red. And she said, well, we have some new colors. And she hands me, and they're all like Easter colors. And I'm like, oh,
that makes sense.
My. And I said, no, not for me. And she said, come on, try. And then I heard a little voice in the back of my brain saying, Julie, step out of your comfort zone for the love of God. If you can step out of your comfort zone with your nail polish, you can do anything.
Who said that? Whose voice was
That was me. That was my own voice.
Oh, it wasn't me?
No, it wasn't you.
Oh.
So it wasn't you. It was me. So I decided to go for the pink. And then she said, you want another color? And I'm like, well, I'll do the blue like Dan said. So I picked the blue. And then she got upset because I said, only in one nail. One nail is enough. And she wanted to do both of my ring fingers. And I'm like, no. Because the right hand, I will see it all the time. So no, do not do that. So I got one blue nail in addition to my other pink nails, which, you know what? It's not, I still have to get used to it.
And all night she was waving her hands in front of my face and I didn't notice it.
Yeah, I came home in the middle of the afternoon. I served him lunch. I'm drinking water and he's not seeing it. Mm-hmm. So here we are, boys and girls. Anyway.
Well, I'm glad you stepped out of your comfort zone.
Yeah, that was totally.
It made for good conversation last night, and it's all overall a positive experience, isn't it?
Well, my friends last night, they're like, isn't that drink delicious that Julie is having? Oh, Julie's hands are so pretty. And yeah, Dan's like, And I finally had to like, dude, do you not see here what my hands look like? Anyway.
I don't immediately go to colors.
Because you're colorblind. You've said this before.
Yeah, no, I'm mildly colorblind. I'm not crazy colorblind, but.
I need to go get my eyes checked. By the way. I had a hard time driving in the dark. But that's the perils of being old.
So Julie, our guest today.
Yes.
Is Amanda Schenkenberger.
Yes, and I enjoyed our conversation. One of the things that I love is exploring different forms of education, and she is this homeschooling mom. And although I, don't have kids and don't homeschool, I know that it is very important for parents to have educational options. And it's very important that we don't have a one size fits all. The one thing I liked about this conversation with Amanda is that, even if you're not a homeschooling parent, even if you're not someone who has kids at home, you are going to find that there are so many different nuggets in here that are going to help you really be able to include a better outlook on what is legacy learning, also the power of parental involvement and how you can have parental self-doubt. And as moms, grandmothers, people who are of influence in a child's life, it's very important to be able to have some flexibility and also have emotional mastery when it comes to what we do. Also, we talk about socialization and college preparation. I unpacked it all because I wanted to ask Amanda all of these things.
Well, the cool thing about Amanda is she is very, she would be the person that can speak about this intelligently because she not only homeschools, she's second generation. She actually was homeschooled.
Right.
And she's a mental health practitioner also.
She is a mental health practitioner. And there's a lot of misconceptions when it comes to homeschooling. And by the way, I don't think this is for everyone. certainly not for me. And there's a lot of parents out there that after the pandemic feel that, no, thank you. I need to go have somebody else do this. And that's perfectly fine. But there's a lot of parents who have neurodivergent children or that have students with special needs, and perhaps their school district does not meet the needs in the way that you feel that will be best for your children. So it's a lot of different reasons why families homeschool. And again, it is important to be able to be supportive and to be open to everybody's opinions and everybody else's choices. One of the other reasons a lot of parents homeschool is because of bullying. And we talk about bullying. We also talk about social skills, college prep, and the resources that are available not only from Amanda, but from all the other places where parents can bring in the experts to help them navigate the learning experience for their children. We have some practical tips for, again, fostering positive outcomes for your children. So you don't want to miss this conversation. Daniel, you're going to be a bachelor for the week come Tuesday.
I am. I'm going to drop you off at the airport on Tuesday and bachelor time.
I'm going to be at the Building the Boss Summit. I'm speaking next week. And I'm going to hang out with my friends in Florida. Maybe I'll go dip my toes in the sand. So I'm excited. Hey, by the way, Florida declared August 30th Jimmy Buffett Day. So we need to make plans to go to Florida on August 30th to celebrate Jimmy Buffett.
Well, I guess we'll have to go have a cheeseburger in paradise then.
Wow. Ba-dum-bum.
Hey, Julie.
Yes, Daniel.
It's time for the interview.
All right.
Everyone out there, I hope you enjoy this interview with Julie DeLucca-Collins and Amanda Schenkenberger.
Welcome back to another episode of Casa de Confidence. And I'm going to say her last name, boys and girls. I have Amanda Schenkenberger with me. And I said, yay.
You did it right.
See, practice, and confidence. You know that I love bringing you guests with all types of backgrounds, and today's guest is no exception. I met Amanda, and I really love what she is doing because she helps homeschool mamas create a schedule, calm the chaos, and build strong bonds with their kids so that everyone can experience a joyful connection and rigorous academics at the same time. She leverages her own experience as a homeschooled individual and homeschooling mother of 4 inside a homeschool family academy where she coaches other moms to educate curious minds and cultivate courageous spirits. When I first spoke to Amanda, I knew that I wanted to have this conversation. I come from an education background, worked in education for many years. So certainly, we are here to unpack it all. Welcome to the show, Amanda.
Hello, Julie. It's so wonderful to be here. Thank you so much for the invite.
Well, thrilled to unpack homeschooling. And unlike a lot of people that we hear are homeschooling and they're new to it, you weren't new. You were homeschooled. At what age did you begin to be homeschooled?
Yeah, so I was homeschooled right from the start. I didn't attend public high school until my parents got divorced. And I was I think it was 14 or 15. I'm not quite sure. But from those early years up to that point, I was homeschooled.
Wow. What made your parents, try to homeschool you? What was the reasoning behind them?
Yeah, so it was actually my dad's idea, and he's always done things a little bit differently. And he read a book. He can't remember the name, but I think it was either John Taylor Gatto's book or John Holt's book. These men are kind of behind the homeschooling movement. And he realized even back then, he thought that there wasn't enough reading, writing, and arithmetic focus in public schools. It was just, there was too much extra going on and not enough focus on the essentials. And he truly believed he could do a better job at home. And so he talked my mom into it. And then she, nervously got on the boat and then ended up loving it. So that's how we got started.
And then your mom is the one who primarily did the schooling, or did your dad get involved as well?
My dad actually was highly involved. A little side story. I don't know if I told you this,
Mm.
Julie. So my dad is completely deaf, and
Wow.
he went progressively deaf
Mhm.
um, through his 20s. And when I was born, he couldn't hear at all. Um,
Wow.
and because of his specific situation, he never had to learn sign language. Like we finger spell, like the
Mhm.
ABCs, but he doesn't really use sign language, and so he reads lips. And he's actually the one who taught me how to read. And
Really?
yes, because he could see the sounds on my mouth. He already, like, that's how he communicates. And so
Mhm.
he just needed to make sure my mouth was making the right sounds. And he taught me how to read using hooked on phonics. And it's one of my fondest memories from childhood.
Oh, I love that. Our parents are definitely our first teachers. And
Mhm.
one of the reasons why your story to me really called out is because sometimes parents are very unsure and they lack the confidence to know whether or not they're doing the right thing. But there's no way of knowing whether we're doing the right thing. And I say we, even though I'm not a parent, but we have to just try. We have to go and take action. I love that both your parents were involved and really your dad had such a impact on you in your formative years. What is one of the memories that you feel, other than learning to read with your dad, that really it's a fond memory from growing up in this environment?
Yeah, so that's a great question. Really have so many to choose from. We had a ranch, and so we bred horses and dogs.
Mhm.
And so I had a lot of hands-on experience in, got to go muck the barns, got to clean out the water barrels, clean up the puppy papers. And I think one of my favorite things about being a homeschool kid was I could go outside whenever I wanted, whenever, like obviously there were time to do
Mhm.
chores, there was some time for learning, but I always got to go outside whenever I wanted, and I got to be with the horses, or I got to be with the dogs. And we lived in this rural place, a particular place for a while, and it had a stream running through it. And I
Mm.
could go, it was through the horse pasture. The dogs, obviously, they would follow me because, they would just, we were a little.
Yeah.
And so I'd just go down to this stream, and there was like this little rock bank, and I'd play in the rock bank, and there were fallen trees, and I'd climb over. And it was just amazing that I got all this quiet time to myself, enjoying nature. I just treasure it, being
Mhm.
like remembering it, because it really helped me develop a love of being outside and appreciation of beauty, and just being okay with watching the river go by, you know,
Mm.
and enjoying that quiet space. And so that's probably one of my fondest memories of going down to the little stream that went through our property.
I love that because I can picture little Amanda and exploring, and there's so much curiosity as children. And not to say that regular school stifles curiosity, but definitely having an environment where you have freedom and responsibility
Mhm.
is a great environment. My first, I think, encounter with homeschool, and I'm going to be dating myself, Amanda, because this is way before your time. Um, there was a show in the 80s, and I know my Gen Xers will remember it, Growing Pains.
Yeah.
And there was a point in which one of the children were being homeschooled. And I thought, oh, and I remember thinking, I don't think I want to be home with my mom and having her be my teacher, because when she did homework with me, it was a very excruciating experience. And I think that a lot of parents, and coming from the education background, a lot of parents always say, "Oh, I can't wait for kids to go back to school," because they need sort of that freedom too. But for many families, this is a viable and important choice. What leads most people, if obviously faith, obviously understanding that maybe the school is not meeting the needs of their children, but what are other reasons people choose to homeschool?
Yeah, there are two other, well, probably three other really big reasons. One, a lot of people don't necessarily want to homeschool because of their faith, but simply for moral instruction. And
Gotcha.
so it might not have any attachment to a particular faith, but they want to impart certain morals and
Mhm.
character values into their children. And one of the best ways to do that is spend more time with them.
Yeah.
And so that's another big reason. This morning, I was just chatting with a mom here in Oregon who pulled her daughter out quite abruptly due to bullying. And
Mm,
that's another big reason
yeah.
why families are homeschooling. It's because their child's mental health is at stake, not necessarily because
Mhm.
of what's being taught, but the other kids in that school environment. And then another big one is it's actually quite a large population of homeschoolers. It has to do with neurodiversity and kids who maybe are atypical on the spectrum, maybe ADHD or dyslexia or dysgraphia, anything in there. Maybe they're just an out of the box thinker. Maybe they're an like twice exceptional child. There's a huge population of homeschoolers who pulled their kids from public school because they saw that experience of being in a classroom, large classroom, and the structure set up was not serving their child. And they felt that one-on-one instruction or something a little different could really serve their child well because their child was a different thinker. So that's another huge reason why families are homeschooling nowadays.
I love that you brought up the neurodivergent students because I think that we live in a world in which we are more aware of the differences that we have in providing an environment where you're really addressing the different needs can sometimes be challenging for schools.
Yeah.
Schools are dealing with shortage of staff. Schools are dealing with shortage of funds. There is obviously, I've seen this a lot in which the programming, right? The state dictates what the different school districts have to incorporate in their curriculum, right? Now, from there, you have the school board, the superintendent, the principal. So there's so many different layers saying to a teacher in the classroom, do this, add this, have this. And when you have a superintendent or a school board, and maybe there's a focus that this particular superintendent has, and then they leave, and then all of a sudden you have to pivot to the next du jour kind of instruction, right? And I've
Yeah.
seen this a lot. So for students that are neurodivergent, that tends to create a lot of disruption.
Yeah.
Yeah, and in the bullying, definitely, I've seen that as well. And I think these are viable options for people to really consider when they're dealing with that. Um, how do parents go about deciding to homeschool if maybe their children are already in school? And what are the things that they should consider as they start to evaluate this option?
Yeah, so that's also another great question. And it really gets down to family. It's like a family decision. Sometimes, you might have a situation where a kid's really not on board with homeschooling, but you know that they're in a really toxic environment, maybe with their friends. And like, if you keep going down this road, like, I can't allow that. I mean, I'm your pet, like, I
Yeah.
get to make these final decisions for you. So sometimes it's not necessarily up to the child, but having their buy-in is really important. But I think ultimately, it's a family by family and sometimes even a child by child decision. I know multiple homeschool families that are homeschooling, a handful of their kids, and then everybody else goes to public school, or there's, a whole bunch of different variety within families. So again, I think it's a family decision. And I would encourage you that if you're considering it, write down, I would talk it out and write down, well, why are we considering this option? Why does
Mm,
it sound like a good fit for our family? And there's so many reasons to homeschool. And if you find that the reasons to homeschool are continually stacking up, then pursuing what that looks like for you guys as a family is really important. It depends on your state, the state you live in the United States. each state has different homeschool laws. And so it's legal in every state, but there's, a wide variety of what is available to you and what you need to do to track your homeschooling. I live in Oregon, and we just have to take standardized tests at certain grade levels. So it's really simple where I live, whereas other states, you have to start tracking what you're teaching them, hours, days they are, you're schooling. And so after you decide, why do we want to do this as a family, then investigating what your state laws are. Sometimes, some families in a neighborhood, they want to start a pod, but maybe your state says only parents can give homeschooling instruction. So that's, entirely different approach you're going to need to take if you are the one who needs to be doing the instruction. So I would, for resources to find your state laws, there's a great website. It's hslda.org.
hslda.org. And we're going to put this in the show notes so that people can have access to this. That's a wonderful resource for sure. I was wondering, because as you're speaking, there's a couple different things I want to unpack. And of course, I know that there's some people who have different of opinions when it comes to schooling. And I want to be clear that for me, I believe that educational options are important. I don't believe that there is a one right choice. There's only the choice that makes sense for you and your family. And I believe that there are some incredible private schools. There's some incredible public schools. I am a product of public schools. My high school in particular has given us Jeff Bezos and a Supreme Court justice who was my classmate. So I'm not necessarily promoting one way or the other, but I'm providing information. You talked about pods. Tell me what a pod is and how does that work? And let's unpack that a little bit.
Yeah. So let's say both mom and dad work, or maybe mom has a part-time job, or you know that being home all the time isn't going to work for your current schedule. And excuse me, I'm a little froggy today.
That's okay. And it's early for you. I forgot.
It is a little early. That's okay. So in order to still create a home learning environment, but not have one of the parents be home to provide the instruction. Back during COVID, a lot of families in neighborhoods got together and formed pods. And a pod is a learning group that has an adult to be the instructor. And it's usually a parent of one of the children. And so, back during COVID, we could say, okay, my kids are going to be at your house on Mondays and Wednesdays, and you're going to teach them this curriculum. And then Tuesdays and Thursdays, I'll do it at my house. And then Fridays, we'll just be home. We'll work from home and provide instruction for our own kids. Right. Or maybe there's a co-op they can go to that day, or maybe there's a 1 day a week school they could go to that day. But it's really what pods ended up being was like neighborhood families getting together to educate their children. And so I've even seen here in Oregon, families hire a teacher to provide the instruction, because that's allowed here, provide the instruction, and the families who they all pay the teacher and they'll decide on what curriculum the kiddos are going to be doing. And that's their pod. So the parents actually, most of them are working parents and somebody else is teaching the kids, but they all decided on the curriculum. They all picked the teacher. And that's how pods can also function. Sometimes pods might just be, you know what, we're not going to hire a teacher. We're actually going to pay one mom to do it. And, she doesn't need, depending on the state you live in, again, sometimes moms need a certain education or pass a test. Sometimes they don't. And she can teach all of our kids, and we'll pay her. We'll pay for the curriculum. And then I will go work. Right. And so pods can really be dynamic.
Yeah.
They fit the needs of the families, and usually a neighborhood, maybe like a city, but typically it's like you guys live in the same neighborhood and like, okay, let's figure this out together.
Super interesting. And thank you for unpacking that. I think that, again, there's so many possibilities that people can leverage. One of the things that I think about, especially because I've had friends, and I have to say that this is, a little bit of a judge in me. I have friends that have decided to homeschool, but I know that they were in a certain class with me and they failed it. And my first thought is like, "Ooh, how can they teach?" Right? Because there is some stringent requirements for teachers to actually be in the classroom. So tell me a little bit more about, and for the mom who's thinking, I want to homeschool, but I don't think I can do it. I don't know if the math is something that I can handle, or whatever it is, right? Because there's self-doubt that women encounter, and some men as well, but mainly the moms seem to be the ones who are homeschooling, correct?
Yeah, that's very typical.
Yeah,
that
typical.
90%, 95%.
Yeah, so there's self-doubt that is going on in there, but there's some that are obviously not, they shouldn't feel self-doubt because they do have the capabilities to. But some, maybe you got to navigate when there isn't the necessary qualifications.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if I'm saying this correctly.
That's okay. But you're absolutely right in the sense that lots of moms deal with self-doubt. I don't think I know a homeschool mom who didn't feel self-doubt. And thinking about motherhood in general, how often we doubt ourselves. Am I doing the right thing? Right.
Yeah.
But just like you taught your child how to talk, how to walk, how to eat, how to, possibly even read at this point, you are like naturally as a parent, you're a natural teacher already for your kids.
Yeah.
And so my first thing is that I want moms to start trusting themselves. That's number one. We got to start trusting ourselves. Like that mom intuition, you are more connected with this child than anybody will ever be in their entire lives. They grew inside of you, right?
Yeah.
So there's nobody who could have more connection than you do with this child. And then there's just this innate love as a parent that you have for your kids that's going to make you stick your neck out farther than anybody else would, and be more devoted and courageous in figuring out this homeschooling. You are the best person suited to help this kid learn. And on the other side of things, if we're talking about the elementary school ages, kids are just naturally curious. They want to learn, and we get to partner with them in that. And so for any mom who's feeling self-doubt, number one, I would say, let's start trusting ourselves. Let's start trusting ourselves that we can provide what our child needs in the moment that they need it. Another thing I would say, homeschooling is vastly different than when I was homeschooled. We had like two choices. There were like two curriculums. Now there are so many curriculums available to homeschool parents. It is overwhelming the resources that are out there to support parents. And so if you're sitting there thinking like, oh my gosh, like me, it's me with math. We're never friends. And I was, that was one of my concerns. Like, what happens when my kids need my help with long division?
Yeah. I will tell you, algebra was never my friend. And I just the thought of having to do algebra kind of give me the heebie-jeebies.
Right?
But there are resources out there. And we live in a world, I can't think of the name right now because God forbid I can think of the name. But the Khan Academy, there's so many different things that people can really find that are able to help them supplement, and you don't have to be scared of not knowing the high level math or the science or the things that maybe are not your jam. Is that true?
Absolutely. Absolutely. My son who's in sixth grade, like he showed me his math the other day and I was like, hope you don't need help. He's like, no, mom, I got this. Right. But if he did need help, I know where to go get the help. The curriculum that we use provides extra resources. There's lots of curriculums that do that. If you want to outsource math to be completely online and hands off, where you just review maybe the things they need to work on, you could use CTC math. Like it is so easy. And there's teaching textbooks. There's so many resources for us as moms. My son, my oldest, who's in 6th grade, he loves science. He loves science. And one of the beautiful things about homeschooling is that he can move up levels without needing special approval or, like, okay, well, maybe you just gotta wait. I'm sorry, son. You're really good at science, but we have the freedom. So he's actually taking an online high school science class.
Amazing.
He thought, like, he just loved it. He gave me this list of, Mom, I want my biology class to teach me this, and I want it to teach me this. I want it to teach me this. And I'm like, okay, sure.
Okay.
And we found one that he even wanted to learn, like, to dissect a dogfish. And we found one, like, I have a dead dogfish waiting for him to dissect at my house.
Oh my gosh.
When we get to that point in the curriculum. But he's 11. And he's taking a class because he's actually a grade ahead. He's taking a class meant for somebody who's, maybe 17.
Yeah.
And so that's one of the beautiful things. And yes, there's some parts from me where I come in and I check it, and I will have to be part of the dissecting of the dogfish. However, that is going to be a bonding memory him and I have. And I do look forward to it, but I'm not teaching that curriculum. He watches videos online from teachers who are certified teachers. Yeah. And I don't have to worry about that. So there's so many options available, even some random lists that he came up with about things he wanted to learn that was out there. We found it.
Amazing.
So, I always like to tell homeschool moms or moms considering homeschooling, there's 2 things you need to be. You need to be courageous, right? You need to be courageous. You're going to be going against the grain. You're going to be learning a lot of new skills. I always like to say that homeschooling, we knew it was going to be hard, but we didn't know it was going to be a journey of self-discovery. Thinking about your mom doing homeschool, doing homework with her. Yeah. How do we make learning joyful when we're frustrated?
Right. And I bet that there's a lot of levels of communication that you have to work on in time management, because again, as an entrepreneur, we have to manage our time. And as I would imagine, as a homeschooling parent, you also have to kind of decide, right? I would have liked to have the ability to not have to get up at the crack of dawn to be the bus or getting ready to go to school. But time management is key, right?
Yeah, absolutely. That's actually where those 2 things, communication, like building strong bonds, that involves a lot of communication, and time management. Those are my wheelhouses. And we also talk a lot about emotional mastery, right? Yeah. What do we do when we're frustrated? What do we do when our kid's frustrated? How do we learn, or how do we pivot in those moments so that we can still have the rigorous academics, but also keep learning joyful? And so, absolutely, those are it's really like a honing of the family. I like to help families use homeschooling to create their legacy, right?
Legacy. That's really cool. I love that.
Because you're developing, it's a culture. You're developing these lifelong relationships. And when somebody sees your family, right, what are they going to say about them? What are they going to say about your family? What kind of impact is your family going to have on the world as a result of homeschooling? And so that's where we really get into not just, oh my gosh, how do I survive this homeschooling thing? No, we can thrive. We can make it something absolutely beautiful. And so to head back, the 2 things I like to tell moms is you got to be courageous, and then you got to be resourceful. I don't know a group of people more resourceful than homeschool moms, right? And when we have, things at our disposal, like Google and AI, and tell me about I don't know, the dogfish. Tell me
Right.
about dogfish, or let's watch a documentary on ancient Egypt, or we have all these things at our disposal. We just get to go out there and find them. If we're courageous and we're resourceful, this homeschooling thing is going to rock.
Yeah. I love that you're talking about resourceful. I think that courageous is one of the things that no matter where we are, it's these things that we can adopt for ourselves. I love that you also, in the support that you provide for moms, Amanda, that you give moms the support to learn how to manage their mind and emotions.
Yeah.
Tell me why this is important and how do you help them?
Yeah, that is something that a lot of moms, we don't know how to do, right?
Nobody teaches us.
Nobody teaches us. Absolutely. And so I think about my struggles and my heart behind teaching moms emotional mastery, how to manage their mind and emotions, comes from a really hard time in my motherhood journey, where I had 3 little ones and I was the sole provider for our family. My husband had gone back. We had decided for him to go back to school. And I was the entrepreneur trying to provide for our family. And it caused me to be what I call a lava monster. And the amount of shame and guilt I felt as a mom with these children about, like, they would just do kid things. Maybe they were loud, or maybe they didn't obey right away, right? Like they're a normal human. I would just erupt in anger because I was so overwhelmed. I was so pent up and bound up, and there was so much happening, overactivated in my nervous system for sure. And so I think it's so important to teach moms to be in tune with themselves.
Yeah.
Right, in tune with themselves emotionally. And we start doing that by identifying our own triggers, right? Maybe worry or fear, or maybe it's a noise, right? A lot of moms that I talk to, they're discovering that they're really sensitive to loud noises, and we're around small people all day.
All day. Yeah.
And they are loud. And there's no changing that. And so how do we get in tune with ourselves emotionally? How do we relax our nervous system? When we feel triggered, what do we do? And how do we manage our thoughts that influence our emotions, that result in actions, and then give us a result that we actually feel proud of?
I love that you're talking about this. This is one of my favorite topics. Let's unpack this.
Okay.
Thoughts create our emotions. Our emotions create our actions, and our actions get us our results, which, by the way, the results that you get typically prove whatever thought you had correct.
Yeah. Oh, that's a nasty cycle.
It is a nasty cycle. So how do you begin to shift your thinking?
Yeah. So I actually just did a little workshop with my moms on this past Sunday. We took a negative thought that they were having. And we were talking about the holidays, because typically the holidays disrupt the homeschool flow.
Yes. It disrupts everybody. It's not just the homeschool, but we love it.
We love it. So how do we embrace homeschooling and joyful holidays and peace and traditions and storytelling and cooking? Like, how do we do that without it disrupting that sacred routine that we work so hard to create? So one of the things we did was we identified a negative thought that we've been having about the coming holidays. And then what we did was say, okay, what is that thought causing me to feel? And so, overwhelm, anxiety, stress. Okay, what is that overwhelm, anxiety, stress causing me to do? What are my actions as a result of that? So we list those out, and then we said, what's happening? What's the result in our life because of these actions? And so maybe it was yelling at my kids, or maybe it was freezing, right? Because that's another, fight, flight, freeze, or fawn. Those are all different responses we can have. And so what's our result? Oh, I'm not planning anything for the holidays because I'm freaked out. It's going to ruin our routine. Or we're saying no to absolutely everything. Or we're just going to throw it all to the wind. If I get stressed and blow up, like, what's our result?
Mm-hmm.
So what we did from that point, right? Because we're left with this like negative, yucky emotion. So how do we replace that thought with something that will create a different result? And so from there, I said, what kind of result do you want for the holidays? What do you want to have? Do you want to just say no to school? Because that's fine too. You just want to have time where you're baking and cooking and reading stories and going for walks and looking at trees. If that's what you want, that's fine. But what's the real result that you want? And, it's typically around, well, I want us to feel connected and I want us to keep up school, right? I don't want to get behind. All right. That's a great result. Now, what actions produce that result? And that's a little bit different for every family. That might be, instead of doing a 4-day-a-week school, let's do a 3-day-a-week school and have 2 fun days, right? Okay, so those are your actions. What feelings help you produce that action? That's typically, okay, I got to feel hopeful. I got to feel motivated. I get to feel confident, right? And so those are the feelings. Now, what thoughts produce those feelings in you, right? So we go back up this ladder of creating the result that we want. Like, okay, what's the negative thought? What's the negative result? But what's a positive result? And then we work ourselves back up so that whenever we're starting to feel stressed or overwhelmed or starting to freeze, go back to that thought. So I usually say you put it on your phone or your mirror or your homeschool space so that you can repeat that thought to yourself. Because when you think that thought, you feel confident and motivated.
Yeah.
That produces that action, which will give you that result, right? And so that's really at the core of what I'm teaching homeschool moms. And it's one of those things that they don't know that they need it because they don't even know that it's a thing.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I learned this as I began my personal development journey. And at first, I didn't get it. And I thought, well, what do you mean my thoughts are creating my emotions? I don't know. And it's not until you start to really become aware and pay attention and be curious through the process. And I love that you're doing this. I want to ask you, because this is another thing that a lot of people tend to ask when it comes to homeschooling. Will my child be ready for college? And how do you socialize children? Because I will be honest, we had a homeschooling family when I was growing up in our church, and we had a hard time really interacting with the kids because and they began to be that family, right? That just, I hate that. But at the same time, it was difficult to socialize. And I think things have changed. Our world is different, but there's still this diversity. And I want to unpack, how can we belong and create communities that are inclusive, and how do homeschooling communities and parents can socialize their children, have them participate in after school activities. And in high school, I had a wealth of offerings to me. I had some incredible classes. I participated in band. I participated in dance. I learned languages. Again, how do homeschooling parents can navigate that and prepare their kids for high school or college, rather. Much to unpack, but I want to make sure that we touch on this.
Okay, so let's take the socialization, right? I remember as a homeschool kid, when I tell people, oh yeah, they're like, what school do you go to? I'm like, oh, I'm homeschooled. And they're like, you're not weird. And I was like, what? Like, why do people keep saying that to me? Like, great, you don't think I'm weird. But well, why do people keep saying this to me, Mom? And as a kid, I actually got very involved in a sport. It's called vaulting, and it's gymnastics on horseback.
Cool.
Yeah, it's actually really cool. And in that sport, that you're on a team, and the team is a variety of ages. And like, we're wearing leotards, it's mostly girls. There's a few boys on the team. But I got to interact with a variety of ages of children, from, I think I must have been 5 when I started. And so, I had a coach. I had friends my age. I had friends that like were older than me. And so I got to learn how to be social because I had that provided to me. Now, I like to say that if your family's already weird, homeschooling isn't going to fix you. So if you're kind of already that weird French family, like, okay, well, it's fine that you homeschool, but if your family's weird, I'm sorry, you're screwed. But there's so many opportunities now to do, like you're saying, dance. I got to do dance. I got to do band. There are, depending on your state laws, your kids can still participate in after school activities. In Oregon, we can do this. Some states don't allow that. So you'll have to find out for your state. But there are so many private options too. For example, we are doing jujitsu. I have 4 boys. Everybody's already wrestling. Let's just make it safe. So my boys are doing jujitsu. And so they are learning from a coach. They have a different teacher. They have friends their age, some friends that are younger, some friends that are older. They're part of a group activity. Obviously, jujitsu isn't a team sport, but they're learning competition, good sportsmanship. And so they're getting that interaction, that social interaction. And I think simply put, if you have good conversations with your kids, you teach them how to critically think. And these are things you can do, not when you're not homeschooling. Teach them how to critically think, how to be empathetic. Because let me tell you, that's a skill.
Oh, 100%. And I think that that's really something that we have to be able to start to teach from a young age and really, be aware of how to be empathetic and communicate with each other. And those are wonderful skills that I think I have friends that have been homeschooled that they have because they were exposed to different adults as well and learned how to communicate from an early age with others.
Yeah. So teaching them foundations of communication while providing those kind of enriching sort of activities that will allow them to interact with different kids. And I will say one thing, right? Because we talked about neurodiversity. Sometimes those weird homeschool kids are the kids that are neurodiverse. And that does sometimes create their neurodivergency doesn't make they don't have empathy or they don't understand other people's point of view. And that's something that they might not ever have. And so if you're a mom and you have a highly neurodivergent child, that's not something you need to worry about. Like you get to just tailor your child's education to their needs and slowly get to develop those soft skills as best you can in your child. And so if someone's like, oh yeah, they're one of those weird homeschool kids, don't worry about what other people think of your child. If your child feels confident that they can learn and overcome, then that's really all they need. So I would the social pressure of not having weird kids, black it out as best you can. But still provide those opportunities, teach critical thinking and empathy. So I think there's lots of opportunities for that. There's co-ops, which is like a cooperative. You meet typically once a week so kids can interact too. So there's so many of these. And then thinking on the college end of things. One of the beautiful things, like I've already stated about homeschooling, is that you get to allow your children to pursue their own interest at the level they want to. So my 11-year-old's already doing high school credits. And so preparing your child for college looks different in the homeschool realm because you'll have to learn how to create a high school transcript. And this is, I actually have a free training on this if anybody ever wanted that. But you've got to learn how to create a high school transcript. And that's actually something like my son taking high school credits. He actually is already earning high school credits because it's like that level. It's already at that level. So he's 11 and he's already earning his credit.
Cool. That's so good. I love that.
So cool. And then community colleges, even back when I was in high school, usually offer something to high school age students to help them start earning college credits. So
Yeah.
my personal advice would be check out your local community college. Go start talking to them if your child's 14 or 15 and see what's available for homeschoolers. Because I don't know how many times I've heard from moms like, oh, I looked on the website and there's nothing. But then I called and I
Mhm.
talked to a person and
Yeah.
they were able to give you a lot more information. So find a college advisor at
Yeah.
a local community college to get some support and open up your child to classes. Like right now, I just got an email from our local college that high school homeschool students can take these, like, I think there's 6 college classes for free.
Yeah.
They don't even have to pay. So
Yeah,
there's
absolutely. Community
there's so
college in
many options.
Connecticut is free. And I think that, a
Cool.
lot of people don't realize that. My nieces, by the way, they went to a magnet school they live in Texas, and they both graduated with an associate's degree
Mm-hmm.
from high school.
Yeah.
And what a cost savings to a parent that now you don't have to pay a 4-year education, but they're getting a solid education that transferable credits that works toward earning their BA. So I love that there's so many choices that homeschooling is providing families, it's providing educational options. And again, there's no one size fits all. And I think that with any decision that you decide to pursue, it's important to see if it's the right fit for your family, but don't discount it. I think that families sometimes look at options and say, oh, it's not for me, without necessarily really digging into this. So, which leads me that you help moms and parents in this arena how to navigate the waters. What are some of the things that you help them with? You mentioned your free course. What else can they leverage from you?
Yeah. So if you are wanting to like begin to dip your toes into this, not like officially homeschool, but what could this look like? I do have a free masterclass. It's called Pressure Free Homeschooling. And I give you one simple strategy to try to see if this is a good fit for you.
Mhm.
And it's actually really fun. And the class is only 20 minutes. Like, I kept it really simple, but it's all
Love it.
about this one strategy that if you learn the strategy, like, it's it just makes homeschooling so connected. And then you can pair it with rigorous academics. For example, like my oldest son taking high school classes while he's 11 years old because he just loves it so much.
Yeah.
So we could do that. You could try my master class there. But then if you are that parent who's, maybe you are a homeschooling parent, you're like, I feel a little lost, or if you're like, this is the right choice for our family, and I want to get started, I just don't know where. Then I offer 15-minute consultations to just help you get in the right direction. Here are your next steps. Start diving in a little bit, right? It'll involve looking at your homeschool laws of your state,
Right.
obviously taking that master class, giving that a try, but just be open to the possibilities of what this could create in your family. And that's what I love, supporting moms, opening themselves to the possibility, growing their confidence, helping them find the resources, and getting down to that nitty-gritty personal development where we've got to learn how to manage our emotions. We get to learn how to manage our time. Then we get to learn alongside of our children. And it's really such a wonderful experience. Like, I wouldn't trade it for anything in the world. So take it from somebody who was homeschooled and is
Yeah.
now homeschooling. It can be such a beautiful time with your children. I just absolutely love it. Seeing my children learn and their eyes sparkle and us overcome challenges. It's amazing.
Amanda, I love your passion and the sincerity that you have in what you do. I am so glad that, you came to speak to us about something that I feel is a really great topic that people can explore and be able to hopefully find the information and know that they can leverage something like this for their families, especially if it's the right fit. We're so lucky to have you. Thank you for coming to the podcast.
Oh, it was my pleasure. Thank you so much for having me, Julie.
And by the way, Amanda has a great blog and she has lots of resources and information. She's been in the homeschool world for a long time, not only as a student, but you can see that she is a thriving individual that is here to help and support you. And don't forget to connect with her. Make sure that you follow her on the social medias. We're going to put all her information, her website, which is homeschoolfamilylegacy.com. And we want to make sure that you connect and let her know that you found her through the Casa de Confidence podcast. And find a friend that maybe this podcast will be inspirational and educational for, and send it to them. We want to make sure that we get the word out, that there's so many different things out there that we need to explore and leverage to help us go confidently in the direction of your dreams. Thank you, Amanda.
It was my pleasure.
Thanks for listening to Casa de Confidence. We thank you for listening, and if you want more, go to casadeconfidencepod.com. Check Julie out on her socials as Julie DeLucca-Collins. And you can also check out her website at goconfidentlycoaching.com. Have a great week, and don't forget, go confidently in the direction of your dreams.
Hi, everybody. I know that sometimes we get very lonely in this entrepreneur journey, and I want to invite you to join us into our limited time only Purposeful You Mastermind. For many of us entrepreneurs, we believe that we can do it all, but the reality is that doing it alone only creates a lot of overwhelm. So join us at the Purposeful You Mastermind. You can find out more information by going to bit.ly/Julie's Mastermind. This is going to be the place where you are able to then unlock your full potential and achieve long-term success for your business. Push you behind your current limits, expand your connections, discover new ideas, and implement them with confidence. You're going to get the support in all aspects and transforming you to the six-figure business you've been looking for. Pause and get off the hamster wheel if you've been spinning around. This is a time where you can get that support from like-minded entrepreneurs that are here to join you in your journey. Together, we can challenge the assumptions and land the speaking engagements and opportunities we want to grow our business and make an impact in the lives of people. See you then. Remember, you can find the mastermind at bit.ly, Julie's Mastermind.